Thank you and welcome to Tastes of Culture. I am excited for you all to join us today for this series hosted by Hart House and UTM International Education Center. My name is Jessica Rain. I'm from Hart House and I have my colleagues here with me. Kasia is also from Hart House. You can see her on screen, and Rebecca Mahadio from UTM International Education Center. So Taste of Culture series really highlights the connection between food and culture, and each session we are delighted to invite an amazing chef or a food enthusiast to kind of lead us through an important dish that is a part of their culture and brings us together. So throughout this academic year, we have explored Caribbean culture through food, Filipino culture through food, and indigenous culture through food. And today's Taste of Culture really explores West Africa. So today's Taste of Culture is a special one for a number of reasons. It's Black Futures Month. And while we celebrate Black history and brilliance 365 days a year, we are excited to bring this session to you today during Black Futures Month, live from the motherland, the center of the earth, Ghana. So we will be led by Chef Kwame and making one of the most popular West African dishes, which is jollof rice. So we are so delighted. And this is also a special one. We are delighted to partner with the Scarborough Campus International Student Center for this, as well as the Center for International Experience at the St. George campus for today's session, which is happening live, making it a truly authentic, unique international experience. So before we get started, I know everyone's really excited. I want to remind you, if you haven't been to Taste of Cultures before, and you're new to the session, you can cook along, or you can wait for the recording at the end of the session to cook along with the recording. Now, I do also want to note that jollof rice is not something that you just make within an hour, so there is going to be time needed to spend after this hour together for you to finish up the dish. And also, just to remind you, we're live from Ghana. Well, not me specifically, but Chef Kwame. And, internet connectivity and technology can also sometimes be challenging. So there may be delays. We might have some challenges here, but enjoy yourselves and, follow along to the best of your ability, ask questions in the chat, and just feel the vibe, All right, so I will now pass it along to Kasia Edwards to get us started.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kasia. I'm the program assistant at Hart House. I'm also the vice president of UTM's Caribbean Connections Club. I'm currently in my 4th year of CCIT, which is Communications, Culture, Info, and Technology. It's a long name. Welcome to this session of Taste of Culture featuring West African perspectives. And thank you for being here. So we'll shortly begin, but I just want to start off by with a land acknowledgement. We wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit River. Today, this meeting space is still home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. I was born on this land in Canada, and my parents are immigrants from Trinidad and Jamaica. It's important to acknowledge the land and whom it belongs to, as well as respect it. Especially as a woman of color, I feel it's important to be allies with Indigenous people and stand in solidarity with them within these spaces and beyond. In light of Black History Month, I would also like to commemorate and recognize our African ancestors who have fought long and hard for our freedom and justice. Let's celebrate their resistance and resilience, which has afforded many of us the opportunities we have today. We are grateful for the opportunities that they have created for our generation, and we hope to continue to create brighter futures for the generations to come. And as a Black woman, I feel it's especially important to highlight and embrace the very successes and hardships that Black people as a whole have sorry, my Wi-Fi, have done or experienced. And I'd just like to turn it to Rebecca.
Thank you, Kasia and Jessica, for that beautiful opening. And thank you to all you beautiful people for being here today. I know we can't really see you, but we're really excited to be hosting this session today with Chef Kwame. Before we jump into the good stuff, we just wanted to do a little bit of a temperature check to see how folks are doing in this space. So I'm going to launch a poll, and you should be able to see it on your screen. There are 3 questions, and we want to just hear from everyone. What interested you in today's session? So what brought you here today? Was it to learn new skills in the kitchen? Did you want to learn about food? Did you want to learn about culture specifically from Ghana or something else? We also want to know, have you had jollof rice before? And if you'll be cooking along live with Chef Kwame, or if you plan to do it afterwards. So we'll just give everyone just a couple of seconds to cast their votes. I'll give it 10 more seconds. Okay, so thanks everyone for indulging us. So it looks like the vast majority of you came today to learn more about Ghanaian culture. So really happy that you're all interested in expanding our knowledge and our perspectives on different cultures from around the world. So that's awesome. It looks like also the vast majority of people have never had jollof rice before. So interesting to know. And then lastly, most of us here today are going to be watching this and coming back to it later to try out the recipe. But Kwame, Chef Kwame, you've got 4 people, it looks like, that are following along live. So that's pretty cool. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it back to Kasia, who's going to introduce our special chef for today, and then we are going to get started. Thanks, everyone. Have fun.
All right, I'd like to introduce Chef Kwame. He's a Canadian trained chef with a West African background. He was born in Ghana and moved to Canada 35 years ago. His inspiration is his mother, who he calls the original chef. His experiences range from running his own restaurant as well as catering for weddings and other special occasions. That being said, we'd like to start off with a question for Chef Kwame. Why is jollof rice important to you and Ghanaian culture?
Jollof rice is important to me. It's a staple in Ghanaian culture. It's one of the foods. It's sort of like jerk chicken for Caribbeans or Jamaicans. Um, Jollof rice is huge. It's not just It's not just Ghana, Nigeria, Ivory Coast. It's pretty much a whole West African thing where we battle over it. But it's usually in fun. We're always competing as to whose jollof is best. I grew up eating jollof. It's like I said, it was a staple. My mom is the supreme chef. That's where my inspiration comes from. So jollof, I've been in competitions in Toronto, quite a few of them called Jollof Wars, and I came first in both of them, I might add. But I love jollof. I love Ghanaian cuisine, hence why I try to infuse it in the experiences that I've learned, primarily Italian and French cuisine.
Okay. Thank you for that. That being said, there's a little bit, like you said, there's a little bit of a debate between which country makes the best jollof rice. What are the different takes on jollof rice?
The truth is, there's good Ghanaian jollof and there's bad Ghanaian jollof. I'm biased. I'd love to say Ghanaian jollof is the best. It probably is. Based on the jollof that I've had, Ghanaians do make very good jollof. However, I've tasted some very good Ivorian jollof as well, right? So it's hard for me to say. Nigerians jollof tend to use parboiled rice, where the rice is more separated, whereas Ghanaians, we use more sticky rice, where it seems to be a bit more together. So that's ideally the difference texture-wise. There's also a little bit of difference in the process, but it all depends on the chef making it, because there's Ghanaian jollof that it's really good, and there's Ghanaian jollof that I wouldn't eat if you paid me. So I'm going to diffuse all that, side of whether it's Nigeria or Ghana or, it's all one love. It's all whoever makes the best jollof. It's all in the tongue of the beholder, as I like to put it, right? It's in the palate of the beholder, so.
Okay. Also, could you further describe your mother's inspiration behind your culinary interests?
My mother is, she's an amazing woman. She, I mean, I didn't even know I wanted to be a chef. I started doing so many different types of businesses, and I was into real estate, buying and selling homes. I was a real estate agent as well. And I've always sort of loved cooking. I didn't realize that it was something that was already in me and that I automatically get it from my mom. She's always loves entertaining, and it's something that I love doing. So friends will come over and I'm always cooking and doing things. And then when they'll taste it, they'll wonder if I ordered it or if my mom or somebody else who's more of an expert made it. So I realized I'm onto something because my friends think that what I'm doing is really good. So it was enough for me. I love, the feedback I get when people are pleased based on something I created with my hands. And that's the inspiration I get from my mom because she's always been that way. She's the lady that would just watch something on TV and come home and do her own rendition of it. And growing up, just walking in and out of the kitchen, grabbing the kitchen and getting slapped on the hand or whatever, grabbing the chicken, excuse me. And it's just overall my love for food. I share and I get it from my mom. That's where the inspiration comes from.
Okay, great. And I'd like to just give you the floor to just start.
So without further ado, I'm gonna hand my phone to my assistant so that my hands can be a bit more free and that I can show you guys what we got going on over here, okay? Let's switch video format. There you go, Nana. Okay, so welcome to my kitchen. Well, my sister's kitchen that I'm hijacking in Ghana. I hope that the feedback is not too slow. I really do apologize. The bandwidth here in Ghana is not the greatest, not as fast as like Rogers or Bell in Toronto, Canada. So my apologies. So do bear with me. I will try to move a bit slower and not talk too fast. If you miss something, feel free to send a questionnaire or let me know so I can slow down or perhaps go back again. So I did give all the ingredients in advance. However, I've assembled all the ingredients that it takes to make the jollof. So I'm just gonna walk you through it. Some of it I've already sort of cut to save some time given the time restriction that we have, okay? So come on. So what we have here is about 1 cup, I would say half a cup of canola or vegetable oil. I'm using canola. If you can use coconut oil, you can use whatever type of oil that you feel comfortable with. Okay, for me, I use canola oil for this purpose. Just keep the camera only on the food. So I have here 1 whole diced onion. You can use white onions as well. I like red onions. The flavor is just more immense, so I like to go with that. Okay, I didn't turn this on yet. We're just gonna go through the ingredients first, okay? Here's your diced canned tomatoes. I have about 4 canned diced tomatoes here. For this recipe, you could use 6 canned tomatoes, which is what I've given you. However, because I've already gone ahead and made some of this, I've reduced the quantity. But for your purpose and the ingredients list that you have, 4 canned tomatoes, it works just as fine. It's just volume, that's all. So what we have here is 3. So the initial ingredients ask for 4 whole onions. 1 is diced up, and the other 4 is gonna go in the blender here, okay? So what I've assembled right here is 3 whole onions diced. These are medium or large, okay? So they're gonna go here in the blender. I hope everybody can see that.
Chef Kwame, we have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
So what size are the cans of tomatoes? Are they 14.5 ounces?
They're the, actually give me 1 second. They're the one, they're 1 liter.
1 liter. Great. Which are
Give me
those?
one-
Are those the ones, those cans that you have there?
No, these are not the cans. So they're bigger than this. They're the one that's just a little bit bigger than this. Like the standard, like crushed diced tomatoes that you get at No Frills for the people, for you Canadians, or the Unico brand. Okay, so it comes. So you have the tiny size like this. You have the medium size, and the next size to this, I believe, is 1 liter. Okay.
Thanks.
No problem. So back to what I was doing. So what I have here is Scotch bonnet pepper. Okay, here's the garlic, and here's the ginger. The ginger here in Ghana, this is ginger. The inside, some of it is a bit green, but it's a very, very authentic, organic, fresh, good ginger. So we're gonna add that to this. We're gonna add the pepper. This is up to the individual, the amount of pepper you use. We have a very high pepper tolerance here in Ghana. So I'm using about 7 pieces of Scotch bonnet. They range in size, but really it's up to you on your heat tolerance. So for you, for this, if you can't handle too much pepper for this recipe, I would suggest you start with maybe 2 or 3. You could always add some sort of a heat kick when the food is done. But if it's too much pepper and then you can't handle it, you can't take out. So that's the thing that we always go with as chefs. You can add when you're done, but you can't take out when you're done. Okay, so here's the pepper that I'm putting in. Here's the garlic. Okay. So we're going to leave that for now. We're going to go back to that later. So for now, we're going to continue our ingredient list. So what I also have here is a bouillon cube. Okay. I have about 2 tablespoons of curry. This is the Jamaican version. You don't have to get the Jamaican curry. Regular curry, Indian curry is fine. I would just use about a tablespoon or a tablespoon and a half if you're going to use Indian curry, only because it tends to be a bit more stronger. Okay. This is freshly grated nutmeg right here. You can get the pre-grated as well, but the freshly grated always has a much aromatic flavor, much more better flavor. So I like to use, Ghana, everything is fresher, so I like to use fresh ingredients. They do have fresh whole nutmegs at your local grocery store in Toronto as well. However, for the purpose of this, you can also use pre-grated if that's what you already have, so you don't have to spend any extra money. This recipe also calls for a basil, fresh basil. I haven't had the best luck finding fresh basil here. This is dried parsley, so it's just as good. We'll use it, okay, as a replacement for the basil. If you have basil, the basil would go in here, okay? So the fresh basil, if it was fresh, you would add it to this blender, to this mixture right here, okay? So here's our I would say 4 or 5 tablespoons of tomato paste, okay? This is our canned mackerel. I've already de-juiced it. I put the juice in here because the juice is gonna be used earlier. This is already pre-cooked, so we'll put this in towards the ending, okay? By the way, this is optional. You can saute shrimps, you can add beef, you can do so many things with jollof, right? In terms of meat, you could go vegan and not add any of this, okay? So for this purpose, we're adding it just to give it extra flavor, and that's part of what I do. Okay, so we're gonna come back here and turn the heat on. Anybody have any questions in the meantime, ladies? Or just carry on?
Yeah, carry on. I do have a question that's not, so one question is around the blender, the use of the blender. How would you make jollof rice if you didn't have a blender? What would be the process for that if there was no blender?
If you didn't have a blender, you would have to use a mortar. Either way, you have to blend ingredients. You'd have to have some sort of apparatus to mash all these ingredients. So in the olden days, if they didn't have electricity or a blender, they would have to use a piston and a mortar. We have that kind of stuff here, but for this purpose, it is 2021. Everybody here uses a blender, so I'm assuming everybody in Toronto has a blender, I would hope, whoever's watching. But if you didn't, you would essentially have to grind all these ingredients down into sort of a paste. You'll see when I do it. So you would have to find a way to put that together. Okay, so back to this. This is going on. So we started at medium-high heat. Okay, and the first thing that I do is, where's my spoon? Keep it only in the food. Don't worry about it. So the first thing I'm gonna do, we're gonna add our tomato paste. Okay.
Chef Kwame, I have one more question.
Sure.
So for those of us who may not be able to do the whole Scotch bonnet pepper, is there any other peppers that you would say have the same kind of flavor or that you can substitute?
Jalapeno.
Jalapeno, okay.
Jalapeno would be a good substitute. It has amazing flavor, and it's got like a third of, not even a quarter of the heat of Scotch bonnet, right? Scotch bonnet is very strong. Or you could just omit it. You could omit the pepper altogether and add like black pepper or something if you have a pepper. Some people have pepper issues, dietary issues. You can omit it, right? Scotch bonnet and pepper itself does add flavor. However, if you do have some sort of a dietary issue with it, you can omit it completely out of the recipe. It shouldn't change it too much, and you'll still be able to enjoy the jollof. It'll just be jollof with no kick in terms of heat anyway. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. It's good to know you can kind of just freestyle the pepper portion of it.
Okay, so we're just gonna start sauteing our tomato paste. Okay, so the stove is just coming up to heat. Our tomato paste and our onions. Okay, in the meantime, some of our ingredients can go in right now, especially our bouillon cube. This bouillon cube, most bouillon cubes for that matter, contain MSG. This is something I always let people know. So if you have an MSG issue or you don't want it in your diet, you don't have to use this. It does increase the flavor. It's something that is commonly used in Ghanaian cuisine. And for this purpose, I'm gonna put it in there, but it's also an optional ingredient. You don't have to use it, okay? I do recommend the curry and the nutmeg. Otherwise, it's just a different type of rice you're cooking. So I'm gonna get these in here.
Chef Kwame, can you remind us how much oil you used in the beginning?
Okay, so in here is about a cup. So a cup, I would say about a half a cup. So half a cup to a third cup of oil. Now the oil is something that a lot of people have issues with because of health reasons. So at the end, in the video that I've already pre-recorded for you guys, it shows you what I do with the oil at the end. Because the oil is essentially what separates the tomatoes and sort of stews it, and it almost essentially caramelizes tomatoes and brings the natural sweetness out of it. So it needs to be separated. If there's not enough oil in the dish, it'll boil and more like a soup as opposed to stewing and separating. So what happens at the end before we put rice to it, all the oil will be at the top. So at that point, all the health conscious people, you could just scoop most, if not all the oil out, and then put your stew in the tray, add your rice to it, and then it goes in the oven. So the oil at the beginning is essential because it's what keeps everything separated. If it's not separated as you see it, and the oil is not coating the tomatoes around it, it's just not gonna come out to taste the way that at least the jollof that I make taste, you know, and that's essential about Ghanaian cooking. This is how we derive the flavors from the tomatoes. Most of our cooking, to be honest, is very similar to Italian food, with the only exception is ours is cooked much longer. My experience with cooking traditional Italian food, the tomatoes don't get cooked long. Everything is very quick, 15 minutes and it's done. Whereas African food, and it's similar to Caribbean food as well, we cook things for a long time, an hour, hour and a half to 2 hours sometimes, to really get the flavor, and it even tastes better the next day, okay? So as you can see, the heat is starting to pick up now. If you were here and you could smell the nutmeg and the curry, you smell such a beautiful aroma right now, okay? So that's picking up. Okay, so while that's picking up, we are going to blend this. So what I have done is I have added just a little bit of water, just so that it blends a little bit. I'm actually gonna add a little touch more, okay? Just so that it blends well.
While you're doing that, Chef Kwame, another question: can we use chicken stock instead of the cube?
Absolutely. The only thing with chicken stock is if it's in liquid form, you can't use it at the initial stage. In this stage here, we don't want any water in it yet, right? So chicken stock is it's water, so you can't put that in here yet. However, you can use chicken stock at a later stage to bring that flavor in it as well. If you're not comfortable using any of the bouillon cubes, okay?
Got it. Okay, thanks.
So back to this. There we go. There you go. Come on. All right. So we got our pepper, ginger, scotch bonnet, pepper, ginger, onion, okay, and garlic. That's what's in here. So we're gonna bring this here, okay? Keep stirring this. So now that the heat has picked up, we don't want the bottom to burn, so we'll bring it to just a little bit over medium, okay? So now everything is starting to go.
Chef Kwame, we have a question.
Absolutely, go ahead.
So jollof rice, is it served for special occasions in Ghanaian culture or more of a staple?
It's definitely a staple. It's not special. It can be. It's always at every special occasion, but it can be a staple as well. I wouldn't say it's the number one staple in Ghana. Depending on the tribe, there's different foods that are staples. For me, I'm an Ashanti. Our staple is more like it's called ampesi, which in like in the Caribbean, I can relate to. Let's say like Jamaica, they call it like food. It'd be something like callaloo and food, which is like your boiled plantains and yams and stuff. So for us, ampesi is pretty much plantain, spinach, and it's very like and palm oil over it. It's very, very earthy foods, root foods. Is very that's the staple food for an Ashanti man, outside of like fufu and stuff. So, but jollof is something that's in almost every household. It doesn't have to be a special occasion, and we all dig down to it. So here is my garlic, as you can see. I poured it all in there, okay? My garlic blend with my pepper, my onions, and my ginger. So at this point, we're gonna add salt. Do remember that canned tomatoes more than likely always have sodium in them already. So as a result, just be mindful of that, okay? You can use fresh tomatoes as well. You don't have to use canned tomatoes. Canned tomatoes is more convenient. But fresh tomatoes works just as fine. You just have to dice them, okay? A lot of Ghanaians, when they make jollof, they don't like their tomatoes cut up. They like to puree the whole thing, right? It's like a liquid, a tomato puree. I do it differently. I like the texture of tomatoes in my rice when it's cooked. And it seems to be something that hasn't failed me. So for this recipe, it's a little bit not exactly the way every Ghanaian would make it, but you get the drift. Okay, so we got that in there. This is the sauce from the mackerel that I told you earlier. That came out of this. It was in here, the tomato sauce that the mackerel fish is in. So we're gonna add this at the beginning here, because all that is part of our flavor profile at the beginning, okay? With anything where it's a liquid and there's oil in there and you're cooking, you constantly have to stir the bottom with these kind of sauces because we don't want the bottom to burn, right? So now we're gonna add the salt. As I was telling you earlier, be mindful because of the salt that's already there. Salt is one of those things where you can always add, but you can't take out, right? So we're gonna lower the heat because it's starting to spit back at us, which means that the heat is a little bit much, right? So for this recipe, what I'm doing here, I would say about a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half of salt, okay? So at this stage, you just bring it to medium, you cover it, and you vent it, When I say vent it, is if you have to make sure a little bit of the steam is getting out. Don't fully cover it like this. You want to give it a little bit of a vent and let a little bit of the steam get out, okay? So we're gonna leave that for now.
We have some questions. Well,
yeah, while we're waiting, we can definitely do some questions right now.
Okay, well, in the chat, you know, folks want to know how they can place their order with you and get it delivered and when you'll be back in Canada.
Well, for now, the best thing I can suggest is for people to log on to my social media platforms. I'm on Instagram as chef_Kwame, Kwam. That's the best way, or you can email me. I am in Ghana for a while, I won't lie. Because of the pandemic restrictions and returning anyway, the odds of me coming back before April 30th, as per Trudeau, sorry, I'm saying John Chrétien. As per Trudeau, is going to be hard for me to say. So all of my engagements and appointments are being booked past April 30th. So I don't foresee myself returning back to Toronto before April 30th. But anything after that, like I said, I'm always doing small events, private events, anniversaries, private chefing, weddings. You know, you can look at my work via my restaurant page as well, GS_restaurant, which stands for Golden Stool, or chef_Kwam. The Golden Stool actually means a lot to Ghanaian people. I'm sure some of you have heard it before. And that was the name of the restaurant that I had in Toronto, Brampton, Ontario. And a lot of people used to ask me, why the name Golden Stool? And ain't I worried about the last word stool and what some of his double meanings? And I didn't, because it means a lot to us as Ashantis, Ghanaians. The Golden Stool is essentially our soul and our heart. It's a symbol of who we are. Are dead, are living, and yet to be born. So it means a lot to us. There's a story about it, and I would ask your audience to do a little homework when they're off this, and just go and look up the Golden Stool. It's very rich history about what it means for Ghanaians, primarily the Ashanti tribe. So as you can see, I'm constantly opening and stirring it because I don't want the bottom to burn at all. The objective is for the separation. Eventually, when everything is going right, you see oil starting to rise, and the sauce is beneath the oil. When your sauce is not separating, your heat is not right. It's either too low or there's not enough oil coating the sauce and the tomatoes, okay? So at this point, we can add these tomatoes. So I'm gonna hand the phone back to my assistant. Okay, so because I'm gonna add the tomatoes and they're gonna lower the temperature, I'm gonna bring it up to high right now for it to catch back up to boil again, and then we'll lower it up again, okay?
Chef Kwame, we have two questions. So one is,
Sure.
How long does it cook/vent, or are we looking for a particular texture? You might get to this.
I'm sorry, repeat that for me, please.
Yeah, how long does it cook or vent for? And is there a particular texture we're looking for?
Texture in terms of the rice, or you mean the stew?
I think the stew.
The stew?
Yeah.
The stew, we're not looking for a texture. The ventilation is just a cooking process. Throughout the whole cooking process, whenever you're not opening it to stir it, it needs to be covered and vented slightly, okay, so that it's not drying out too much, and also vented so that it's not steaming and too much of the liquid is falling back into the stew, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why we vented a little bit, so that all the steam is not staying in.
Okay, great. So another question. We have someone who lives in a neighborhood with lots of Ghanaian restaurants, but has never tried it. What are some good introductory dishes that are not too hot to try?
Sorry, they live in Ghana, you said?
No, they live in a neighborhood with lots of Ghanaian restaurants. And
Okay.
yeah, they're just looking for
And
an introductory dish that's not too hot. Is there anything you can suggest?
I would definitely say some sort of either fried plantain with like beans, if they have it. The stewed black eyed peas. It's called red because it's usually made with palm oil, which is red. So Ghanaians, we've nicknamed it red, and it's fried with the plantains are fried with palm oil as well. So it gets that red color. So that's a safe thing that it can either be vegan or you don't have to be a vegan as well, non-vegan, and it's usually safe. Or jollof and chicken, you can't go wrong. That's usually a good introduction to Ghanaian cuisine. But if you really want to get into the authentics, then we have the stewed okras, the fufus, the light soups, the peanut soups, and then we start to really go to town, right? But for introduction-wise, I would suggest jollof or any sort of fried plantain dish. It's very neutral, and it's something that you can't go wrong. It's not too authentic. It's not too scary to try. The fufus and stuff, you gotta have the jollof and pass those tests. Then we'll take it to fufu and banku and okra and all that stuff.
Okay, I have a question for you. Because so I actually went to Ghana just the other day, and have been tried the food, great food. I love kelewele. I hope I'm saying
right.
Okay.
Kelewele.
Kelewele, yeah, that's awesome,
yeah.
Amazing. So I wanted to ask you, so when you think of, Ghanaian food, what is that staple ingredient that is so like, this is Ghanaian culture, like it has to be in everything? I know you mentioned tomatoes, but is there any other particular ingredients that are so like ingrained in most of the foods or the dishes that you do? Pepper. Okay.
Pepper is like, they get mad at you when you give them food here without it. They literally get mad. And like you can make the most amazing meal, and if there's no pepper, they will literally say it tastes like horrible. Their palate, it's so ingrained with spice that you need to always, sort of shock them. So I would say that is the most common ingredient here in Ghana. That's almost in everything, which is pepper. Outside of that, I would probably say tomato paste. That's why I said our food is very similar to Italian cuisine, because tomato paste is in almost everything we make. Literally almost everything we make. Tomatoes in general.
So also on the pepper, because when I was there, you see a lot of like your own made pepper, like people make their own pepper. It's different colors, it's different textures. There's black ones, there's, green pepper, like sauces. So is that a thing that you do as well? Like making your own pepper sauces to go with every dish?
So we have pepper sauces that are for like, they're additives, sort of like how you have your hot sauces in the Caribbean or in other cultures, sort of just enhance whatever meal you're eating. We have that, but sauces that we make for particular dishes, they're not actual pepper sauces. They might have a good kick because it's made in Ghana, but they're not actual pepper sauces. We do have actual pepper sauces. The most famous one is called Shitto, which you must have heard of while you were in Ghana, right?
Yep.
So Shitto is essentially made with dried shrimp, crayfish. It's also made with a few other ingredients, pepper of being that dried pepper. It's everything dried, because in the olden days, when the kids would go to school, I mean, you needed something that you could keep in your dorm that wouldn't go bad. So Shitto doesn't even need to be refrigerated. And it's something that is in every household as a hot sauce. It's very good. So we eat that with like banku, even when we have fried yam, we dip it in that, the Shitto pepper sauce as well. So it's a good side thing to enhance meals, but it's not something specifically made to go with any particular dish. It's just like a hot sauce that we use to enhance any meal or any dish that we want to eat.
Okay, thanks. Okay, there's a few more things, questions and comments. There's a healthy rivalry between Ghanaian jollof and Nigerian jollof. What do you think is the difference? Good question.
Yeah, so this question never gets old. The difference from my perspective, like I said, the main difference outside of the individual chef making it, right? Because I don't want to say that Ghana jollof tastes this way versus Nigerian jollof, but the one difference that I've noticed based on the few Nigerian jollofs that I've tasted was the texture of the rice that they use. Nigerians in particular love parboiled rice, whereas in Ghana we use long grain basmati, right? So ideally, the main difference is the texture. There is a little bit of a difference in the process as well, but they use primarily the same ingredients. It's just the process is a little bit different, right? But it is a healthy battle, and we laugh at it all the time. Like I said, you know, we've gone as far as going through competitions in Toronto, Ghana versus Nigeria, and you know, having battles and stuff like that. But it's all in fun. I'm a big believer that food is within the palate of the beholder. So it doesn't matter, you know, if it's Nigerian jollof or Ghanaian jollof. It all depends on the person making it and the person tasting it, right? So that's how I feel about that.
Thanks. So the other question is, does Ghana cultivate a large tomato crop? And is there any particular tomatoes in particular, I guess, for cooking? Is it beefsteak, Roma tomatoes, cherry tomatoes? So there's kind of two questions there.
We do beefsteak, and we are now cultivating a lot of Roma tomatoes, which is plum tomatoes, Italian tomatoes. Mm-hmm. So that's not naturally native to Ghana, but it's something that we're starting to cultivate. It's mostly like hothouse beefsteak type style tomatoes is what's native to Ghana. But like I said, we import and use a lot of tomato paste. So the country is catching on, and a lot of business tycoons are starting to manufacture because we do grow a lot of tomatoes. And the soil here is amazing for farming. So there's a lot of farm businesses popping up here in Ghana. Ghana is a highly developing third world country. I don't like that term third world, but I mean, that is the label that has been given, but it's a very fast growing country. And there's a lot of business and commerce. And essentially that's part of the reason why I'm here as well. I'm thinking I might even want to move my brand back home.
That sounds great.
So yeah, I was just checking on the stew again, just to make sure that it's not sticking on the bottom. As you can see, all the oil we started with, you don't even see it anymore. So this is a good sign that your stew hasn't gone anywhere. When your stew has gone where it needs to go, you'll see all the oil starting to separate and come to the top. That's when you know it's caramelized and gone through all this. There's a lot of liquid in this. So the oil needs to sort of caramelize and coat it and fry it, and it brings a natural sweetness in it, right? And that's when we know that we're getting where we need to go, right? So I'm gonna cover it back up and let it do its job. We can talk some more.
Got another question for you, Chef Kwame. In prep for restaurants reopening here with COVID, what are your favorite 3 restaurants here in the GTA?
My favorite restaurant in the GTA is actually not even it's not African cuisine. My number 1 favorite restaurant is a Thai cuisine. It's called Twin Fish. It's in Mississauga at here in Ontario and
Courtney Park.
Courtney Park. You see, yes, somebody knows about it already. I know the chef there, and their food is amazing.
Really good.
I've known them since they opened. On my days off, when my restaurant was closed, every Monday I was off. I'd find myself there eating there. I love their food, and I just love how he puts his food together. Outside of that, I love Caribbean food. Ackee and Saltfish is my next favorite thing. There's a few Caribbean restaurants. I like to make it myself. There's just a few Caribbean restaurants that make it good. One of them is called Ralph's. It's in Rexdale.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I go to because I'm originally from Malton. So I grew up in Malton. So it was just Rexdale, just down the corner from me. So I would always go to Ralph's. I love their oxtail too. Their oxtail is off the hook.
And their patties are really good.
They're known for their bakery, their patties, their bread. Yeah, so nice. outside of those, I'm pretty neutral. I like to just experiment and cook my own food for the most part. I try to eat healthy, so I don't venture out too much into different types of restaurants. But I would say that, twin fish and definitely Caribbean food, especially Rouse.
Nice.
Yeah, those are some of my favorite foods.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Jessica's popped their websites in the chat in case anyone wants to check them out as well. We are nearing the last 10 minutes together. Another question, sorry, do you like Mexican food?
I am not a big fan of Mexican food, and my chef when I was in culinary school hated me for that because he was a Mexican guy. And I've never really been a fan of Mexican food. I don't know what it is. I love tacos, but that's such generic Mexican food. I know that there's more authentic Mexican food, but it just never did it for me for whatever reason. I like Chinese food. I think it's one of those things, everybody likes Chinese food. They got me a long time ago, and I like Chinese food. I never really got into Mexican food. I like Cuban food. I visited Cuba. I like Cuban food. They do steak really well. They don't, believe it or not, beef is not native to their land. One of their imports in Cuba is beef. So they actually export doctors. One of their natural exports is doctors. They have like doctors galore in Cuba. So they actually export doctors and get beef cows from Venezuela as an exchange. And I thought that was fascinating that they didn't have, like, even for milk, we were getting powdered milk. They have it there, but it's very expensive. But they made, the chef there that was in the hotel that I was staying at, he made the steak in some ways that I was like, wow, I was very impressed. So I like Cuban food as well, based on the experience that I had there. But Mexican food, no. I've had it a few times and it didn't take me there, to be honest.
No, thank you so much for sharing. Appreciate that. Sorry, Jess, were you saying something?
Yes. So, we are nearing the end. There's about 8 minutes until we
It's
get.
too bad. I wish we could do this for so much longer. Oh my God.
So before we end though, I'm, and where everyone is following along, because I know there's a few people who are following along, what do they need to know to finish this up right now? What's,
back.
Yeah.
So jollof is very, very simple. I'm okay now. Jollof is very, very simple. Believe it or not, this is it. The hard part is done. For me, what I do anyway, it's a waiting game. So as you can see, the oil is slowly starting to separate and want to come to the top. So when it's done, the amount of oil you saw at the beginning, about 90% of it should all be at the top. So that is your telltale sign that your stew, and also you notice all the tomatoes caramelized and that the color becomes a bit more darker red, and that you know that your stew is getting to, or it's at where it needs to be before we bake it. So what I have here is I bake all my jollof. So in Ghana, the traditional way of making jollof, they would add this rice in here and cook it on a stovetop. They would add some sort of a foil or a plastic saran and cook it on low heat, stirring it every now and then. But it always boils burns the bottom. And when we were young in Ghana, to be honest, we loved the crispy burned bottoms. So that's what that was all about. But being a chef and working in a restaurant, this process, it didn't work for me. For one, it took too long. I was also wasting food because so much of the rice was burning. So I started with the baking tray method. So I cook my stew fully. This is pre-washed white rice, as you can see here, okay? Make sure all the water is drained. If there's still too much water, it will dilute your stew and therefore will dilute the flavor of your jollof, okay? So this stage, for those that are watching along, you're pretty much almost there. If your stew is starting to look like this, you're about 30 to 40 minutes away before you would put it in the oven. So in the oven, once the stew would go in here, it is in regular cooking of rice. If you were doing water, it's for every I would say ounce of rice, you would use 2 ounces of water, right? So it's pretty much double the ratio of water for rice. That's how you would cook rice if it was with water. With jollof, it's a little bit different. It's almost 50-50 or 55-45. You don't want to use too much stew because it will make the jollof too soft, right? It's not quite water, so it's not quite the same. So you have to take that in mind, okay? And also we're baking it versus stovetop, okay? So that's what you would do. You would put the jollof in here or mix it all up in here at 55-45 ratio. 55 being the stew, 45 being the rice, okay? As you can see how I've already layered my rice, and I've left a certain layer of space above because rice expands naturally once it's baked, okay? So you don't want to fill this up, but then the rice needs space to expand once it's in the oven, okay? So once this process is in the foil, use a nice thick sheet of foil and you cover it well. You would put it in a hot preheated oven, okay? That's at 450 to 500, okay? 450 to be safe if it's your first time, okay? You would leave that in there for about 7 minutes. After 7 minutes, you will take it out and you will stir it. So you bring it back, you open the foil, you'll stir it, make sure it mixes all, and then flatten it all back. Put it back in, lower the heat back to 350, okay? It's very important. 350, at that point, you leave it for about 45 minutes. So it shouldn't take no more than 50 minutes to an hour, okay? 1 hour tops, the rice should be done cooking. But when it's done, it's nice, soft, it's flaky, and it's very versatile. You can do so much with it. You can serve it with so many different things. You eat it by itself. It's a very flavored rice. It's not just a side, it's a meal in itself, jollof, especially when you start to put meats and stuff. In Ghana, they would put goat meat. You can put beef. So what you would do is you'll boil your beef on the side, you'll fry it, and then you would add it to the stew and cook it. So the flavors that's in the bone of the goat and everything will all get absorbed into the sauce. And then they will put everything in here with the meat and the bones and everything all in here and do essentially everything what we're doing. So this is just the base that I'm showing you. So you can take this to so many levels. You can put oxtail, whatever it is that you like, what you want to do, right? And once it's in the oven, you just periodically check it. You open just the corner. You don't want to open it too much. Rice cooks with steam. And if you keep letting the steam out, your rice is going to come back where it's 50-50 is what I call it, where you see some white pieces in there and some soft pieces where it's not done properly. So you have to make sure that it's constantly covered, okay? 350 is a safe temperature. Make sure it's in the middle of the oven. Convection is always ideal. If you don't have a convection, you have a standard coil oven, that's fine. 350, it'll bake. Don't rush it. But as you can see, even as I'm talking, what do you see happening? The separation, right? Okay.
Chef Kwame,
Yes, I'm here.
I know some folks might have to leave right away, so can you show the finished product, the jollof rice that you've already prepared, so folks have a visual of what it looks like?
No problem, I will.
And then I have a few questions while you do that. Can you just there's a question in the chat about putting the cooking pot in the oven, if it's oven proof. Is that cool as well? Does it have to be in a tray? Could it be in the cooking pot?
Sir, Jess, you said that people want to know if they can put a pot into the oven versus a tray.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put a pot like this. First of all, you don't want to put nothing that is too thick. I wouldn't put a pot. I would definitely use a tray. When you're baking, it's just something we do. I wouldn't use a pot like this, especially. You can use, there's certain frying pans that are oven ready. Like if you were doing a small amount, like I do like paella rice. If I was doing a Mexican paella rice, and like I would do like a small portion for maybe 2 people, me and my wife or something like that. Then I would do it in like a bakeable frying pan, where everything is all done in the frying pan and then put into the oven with a lid. But for the purpose of this jollof, I personally wouldn't recommend it unless you have like a nice evenly heat distributed pot that is not too long. I mean, these things are kind of bulky in the oven anyway. I definitely wouldn't put anything like this. This is not made for the oven. I wouldn't put nothing like this in the oven. For the oven, I would ideally look for a baking tray, okay? Or even hotel pans. In the restaurant, we use hotel pans. And even at home, when I'm cooking in Toronto for my family, I use hotel pans, the same one I would use in in the restaurant. This is a little bit of a smaller baking sheet. It's just what my sister has here. But for the purpose of this, that's what I baked with, and it works just fine. That's what I've been using. So the tutorial that I've already pre-recorded that they're going to see when they go to do a reference check, they will see the rice coming out of the oven and going in the oven with this tray, okay? For the purpose of showing you the finished product right now, it'll just be the rice itself. So I'm going to get that to you just now. So keep talking. If you have any questions, I'm listening, please.
Okay, and the other thing is, when does the mackerel go in? I think you put in the mackerel sauce, but not the mackerel. Is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't put the mackerel in yet because, as I was explaining, it's already pretty much, it's edible almost out of the can. So we don't want to make it, it'll just rip apart, right? So we put it in as we start to see the oil separating. We already got the flavor from the mackerel in there. As you see the oil separating, we'll add the mackerel. And then that'll be the final additive before we add the stew to the rice.
Cool. Okay, and just to remind everyone, yes, we will be sending out the recording to everyone who registered. So you will get a link to the recording, so you can try this at any time you'd like.
Jessica, I think I'll do the raffle now quickly. I know some folks have to jump out. So just wanted to thank everyone again for sticking around, learning a little bit about jollof rice, the history, the culture, and the recipe. Thank you to Chef Kwame. I'm going to do a raffle now. So we are giving away $25 gift card to the UT bookstore. If you are still here in the space, I've entered your name on what's called wheelofnames.com to automatically generate our winner for today. So let's see who is our lucky winner. Emily Farrar. If you're here, Emily, you are the lucky winner. I think Emily is here. So Emily, stay tuned. We will email you with more information on how to claim your prize. Congratulations.
So we're just waiting for to see the final jollof rice. So again, I want to thank everyone for being here. If you have to sign off, I get it. But if not, you can stick around to see the final version, and then we will be ending the session. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Jessica, and your wonderful staff. You guys are doing a great thing. This is beautiful. I appreciate reaching out to me to be a part of this. And I believe, is it Hart House?
Yes, Hart House and the International Center, Education Center at UTM, Scarborough, and St. George campuses.
Nice. You guys are doing a beautiful thing. And we need more of this. I wish that I knew about it while I was in Toronto. I mean, I like the whole idea of being here in Ghana. It's just I'm a little bit out of my element, and I literally just arrived in Ghana about a week prior to you hitting me up, Jess.
Yes.
So I'm glad that you guys had some patience for me to be able to execute best I can, given the little restriction that we have.
Well, yes, and it was a really great conversation, and I am glad the connectivity was good in terms of the network. So thank you so much.
I hope it didn't lag too much.
No, it didn't. We're just waiting for the final dish so folks can see the final dish.
All right. I'm all done. I was just putting a little bit of garnish on it for you. I never show my food just plain.
Chef style.
Chef Kwame, we do have one last question out of curiosity. Do you speak Twi? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
You pronounce it pretty good. Yes, I am very. I speak Twi. I speak Twi. That is the local Ashanti Akan tribe language. I do speak it. It's something that never left me. I did leave Ghana when I was 9 years old. I am 44 years old now. I'm forgetting my age. I'm up there. But but I've tried my best in terms of keeping my native tongue and not losing it. And it's helped me tremendously since coming back, because people want to take advantage of you when they think that all you know is English, right? So it's good that I can understand the little things they're saying on the side, right? And when I speak it back at them, and they're like, oh, okay. Well, you guys visited Ghana, so you know already, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's your finished product. Okay.
Wow.
Nice.
So, yeah, this is what the jollof rice is. Like I said, you could serve this with anything that you want, any type of protein. Eat it by itself, and so on. So you can garnish it anyhow you want. You can put anything. Shitto is a staple that we eat jollof rice with, which Jessica was asking about. And shitto is essentially the pepper sauce that we just use on the side here to enhance anything that we eat, right? So that's pretty much it and what it looks like. I hope the camera is doing you some kind of justice. If you do want to know what jollof really looks good with better footage, go and check out my page at chef_Kwame on Instagram, or you can go and check out my restaurant page, which is GS_restaurant, and you'll see better footage, better picture. Okay.
Awesome.
For those
And
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
For those of us who didn't get to make the dish, could you describe what jollof rice tastes like in any way, or compare it to something?
Yeah, it tastes very similar to pilaf rice, like Mexican pilaf, with a bit more flavor, right? Or paella. Have you had Mexican or Spanish paella rice? It's like a famous dish in Spain called paella, or Mexicans eat it too. Paella rice. It's very similar to that. That's one of the things that I can sort of compare it to. But it's one of those. It has a very tomatoey base, but it's not acidic. If you taste in jollof that's too acidic, it means they didn't cook it long enough. That is why the food takes so long to cook, right? If I can bake it right now, like some people when they make jollof, why their food might not taste that good, or you might eat and be like, I didn't really like the jollof, or you think you tasted good until you eat somewhere else. So they rush it. They don't put enough time for the stew to cook, and they would just bake it right now. Right now, the tomatoes still contain a lot of the acid in there, natural acid. And until it caramelizes and starts to separate, as you can see what's happening here, you're gonna see so much more of the oil coming back up on top. And as soon as it's done, then you know, because all the oil will be up here. And at that point, you can scoop some out, put the stew in here, or you can keep some in there if you want it to be a bit more rich. That will be up to you, depending on your health preferences, right? For me, I keep what's in there. We all gotta die someday, right? So you gotta live in the meantime.
Okay. So I think we're good to end the session. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to be with us today. Thank you, Chef Kwame. This was amazing. Thank you for taking us through your process. I feel like I can literally smell the food right now, and so happy to have this recording so I can follow along and do my own thing at another time. So thank you so much for your time, and everyone, I hope you enjoy your meal if you made it, or enjoy your meal at a later time. So we'll end here. Do you have any final words?
I just want to thank you, Jessica. I want to thank Rebecca, Zoe, where's the rest of the gang? Kaja and Betty, I believe, and the other lady.
Anna.
Anna, forgive me. I'm not the greatest with names. I want to thank you guys for your patience and working with the little challenges that we had here. And giving me the opportunity to showcase a little bit of my culture and what it is that we do. I hope that one day some of your audience makes it out to Ghana and actually come to Ghana and see the jollof that we make here and taste it for themselves and see the beautiful country that we have here as well.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.